I played 200 days of Stardew Valley. Just like my first 100 days, these 200 days were going to have a set of goals. Goal number 1, upgrade my house and marry Sebastian. Goal number 2, befriend the in-laws. Goal number 3, complete the last 2 community center bundles. And goal number 4, attempt Skull Cavern. On day 101, I woke up completely confused on my farm. I accepted this quest from Clint, and bumbled around my chest looking for iron. I found it though and got to work making his iron bar. I poked around my journal and found that I had a quest that I needed to complete. So I gave Clint his iron bar, and dropped off my hoe to be upgraded. I then fought some skeletons for some bone fragments, and spent the rest of the night at the night market. I couldn't resist deep sea fishing. I then smelted 2 gold bars and went to bed. I woke up to mail from Lewis on day 102 explaining the Feast of the Winter Star, giving me Gus as a Secret Santa. I did some farm chores. I then walked to the mines instead of using the minecarts because I'm a humble person. Well, no, I just forgot that I had them. I then spent the entire day farming skeletons on floor 75. I woke up on day 103 and hugged my animals. I then stopped by my sturgeon pond and contemplated why they still hadn't given me roe yet. I smelted more gold bars, and I stopped off at Clint's to pick up my golden hoe. I then dropped off my axe for an upgrade. I then spent the rest of the day beating up skeleton bros, and I finally completed Gunther's quest. On day 104, I woke up to more gold bars. I then headed over to Gunther's and donated my bone fragments, completing my quest. I then spent the rest of the day fishing for some winter quests. It took forever, but the game finally gave me a squid, so I ran over to Gus's and gave it to Willie. On day 105, Robin asked me for some hardwood. I stopped by Clint's to pick up my gold axe, and I started an upgrade on my pickaxe. I then broke in my new gold axe on the stumps in the secret woods. I then gave the hardwood to Robin. I then got the secret note for Caroline's lost necklace, but upon reading the wiki I found out you can't get it during winter. But I still tried. I then went home and destroyed more trees on my property. On day 106 I checked to see that my starfruit was getting close to harvesting. So I gathered my copper and iron ore and spent the rest of the day smelting bars and making kegs. When I entered in my coop that night to go grab my animal products, I saw that my void egg had hatched, and I named her Lulth in honor of my favorite spider queen. Day 107 was more Project Keg. I ended up running out of wood, so I paid Robin a visit to go get some, only to find her leaving her shop to go to the mobs club. I let my anger get the best of me and I deforested her property. Karma's a beach. I picked up my pickaxe from Clint. I then stopped off at the Adventurers Guild and picked up some rewards that I've been meaning to get. This mask is absolutely terrifying and I love it. So with my newly acquired Psycho Mask, I then proceeded to murder things in the mines. On day 108, Lewis sent me mail reminding me of the Feast of the Winter Star. My sturgeon pond finally gave me roe, so I ran it up to my lone preserve jar and threw it in. I then spent the rest of the day deforesting Cindersnap Forest. And I paid Robin a visit to build me a shed, so then that way I have a place for my kegs when my starfruit is ready. I then blew the rest of my money on wood before her prices went up. On day 109, I fumbled through my chest and plucked out a diamond for Papa Gus. Lulth was fully grown and had given me a void egg, so I threw it in my incubator. I spent some more time deforesting the town. Upon entering the Feast of the Winter Star, I greeted my boyfriend's family. Robin even invited me to sit with them. I headed over to Gus and gave him his diamond. I then discovered that my Secret Santa was my boyfriend's mother. Awkward! And in the most Robin move of all time, she gave me 25 hardwood. Thanks.
Ho, ho, ho.
I guess it'll be useful when I finally get my horse stable. On day 110, Gus requested an albacore. I made another mayo machine. My starfruit was ready to harvest, and I gave Gus his albacore for his fish stew. I then accepted the wizard's quest to get ectoplasm, and I headed down into the mines to find ghosts. I ended up finding 2, but the ectoplasm didn't drop. On day 111, Linus finally paid it forward with that gift.
Avocado! Thanks!
Robin completed my shed, so I put my kegs down and loaded them up with starfruit. I then spent the rest of the day looking for ectoplasm. On day 112, I got my first batch of caviar. My sturgeons also think that they're really funny. I spent the rest of the day in the mines hunting ghosts. And RNGesus finally decided to be nice to me. I didn't think the wizard would be open this late, so I almost didn't go, and thankfully I did. I gave him his ectoplasm, and he kicked me out to study it.
There was a ghost! This ectoplasm!
I then headed to bed and dreamed of spring. Day 113 was the first day of spring, and it started off with Kent awkwardly introducing himself to me. Hi, stranger. Please get off my property now. I then got my land ready for my seeds. The wizard ended up sending me the plans for a mini obelisk, and Clint and Robin raised their prices. Yay! I bought all the spring seeds I didn't plant the year before, and all of my tree saplings. Unfortunately though, I couldn't afford the apple sapling, the last fruit I needed for the community center. But I planted what I got. I then bankrupted myself buying rhubarb seeds from Sandy. Don't tell Pierre, he'll kill me. I then admired my work, and set up my trees in my greenhouse. I then spent the rest of the night mowing my lawn. Day 114 started with another sales pitch from Pierre. And I forgot to mention it, but I planted maple seeds yesterday. On the way down to Willie's to buy trap bobbers, I contemplated what quest to take and ultimately took Emily's. I bought a large fishing tank and a trap bobber. Now let's go catch ourselves a legendary fish. My first 2 tries were unsuccessful, but on the 3rd one, I managed to catch it. And let me tell you, I sat there shocked for a good 30 seconds. And then I proceeded to freak out. I then rewarded myself by running down to the beach to get Sebastian's 8-heart event. And I ran up to the mountain to get our 10-heart event. We are now officially official. My void egg hatched and I named it Cindoise. On day 115, due to Pierre being closed, I paid Sandy a visit and bought all the starfruit seeds I could afford. I then thanked Pam for driving me out there. I then checked out the community calendar and decided I was going to remember to do birthdays this year. I then planted my starfruit seeds and made another sprinkler. And I got my inventory ready to give Emily those rocks. On day 116, I decided to plant some rice. I gave Kent a birthday gift, and he proceeded to ask me if I was friends with his son. Maybe? I gave Emily her crystals for her rock rejuvenation or whatever. I did a little fishing, and I visited Sebastian in the train yard where he heavily hinted that he wanted me to shell him up. And Stu gave birth in the middle of the night, and I named the new calf Moo. On day 117, my garlic was ready to harvest. Emily somehow managed to mail me an entire sewing machine. My sweet gemberry was also ready to harvest. I bought some more garlic seeds from Pierre. I stopped by Emily's to see that she was crystal healing.
If you want him to believe that it's over, then you gotta stop accepting the booty calls at 2 a.m. in the morning. You understand?
Yeah.
I then gave my sweet gemberry to the statue in the secret woods, getting my star drop. While I was there, I took advantage of the hardwood stumps. My starfruit wine was ready. To think, I was worried about being able to afford strawberry seeds. On day 118, Emily requested an apricot. My maple trees were fully grown. I headed down to Marnie's and I bought 3 pigs. Dean, Bean, and Sean. I gave Emily her apricot, headed over to Pierre's for an apple sapling, and I invested in a house upgrade. I planted my apple tree, and I made tappers for my maple trees. I then spent the rest of the night in the mines looking for copper ore. On day 119, my tulips and kale were ready. I then headed off to Pierre's to buy more tulips and kale seeds. I gave Mayor Lewis a birthday gift. I then broke open some geodes at Clint's, and donated the contents to Gunther, collecting my rewards. And I spent the rest of the day chopping down trees and hanging out in the quarry. On day 120, I woke up to Lewis giving me the recipe for spaghetti. My blue jazz was ready to harvest. I planted some pine trees for pine resin. Today's mission was going to be repairing the old bridge, so I chopped down some trees in Cindersnap Forest. I bought some garlic seeds as a placeholder until I could buy some strawberries. I took Mayor Lewis's quest to ship 100 potatoes, and I proceeded to buy 100 potatoes from Pierre, staring him right in his beady little eyes as I did so. And I didn't break eye contact. I headed down to the beach and I repaired the bridge. And the old mariner read me to filth on my house size. I then went home and planted my potatoes. On day 121, I woke up in a larger house. I harvested my garlic. I watered my potato army. I bought more garlic seeds. And I paid the old mariner a visit, finally buying a mermaid's pendant. I also bankrupted myself on wood at Robin's place for some reason. And I stood behind Sebastian soap opera style and popped in the question. And he said yes. I can't get over the dialogue here, it's just so cute. And I'm so happy that he's happy. And I came home to my maple tree falling and my tapper getting destroyed. I just love this game. On day 122, my rice was ready to harvest. I gave Vincent a birthday gift. I visited my fiancé. I invested in a few wood chippers after watching a few Wickedy videos and seeing how awesome they are. I then headed off to the secret woods to chop a few stumps. On day 123, I cut down my stumps to replant my trees. I visited the secret woods. I checked the community calendar and saw that my wedding was tomorrow. I know it's bad luck, but I had to go visit my fiancé because this dialogue is just too cute and it is now my serotonin. I spent the rest of the night fishing. Day 124 started with my wedding and Marnie dancing. And that was my first goal complete. More garlic is ready to harvest. I visit the secret woods again for more stumps. I was saving hardwood for a house upgrade. Day 125 was the day of the egg festival, and it was also the day that my tulips, garlic, and kale was ready to harvest. I got my fields ready for my strawberries, and headed off to the egg festival with my game face on. I then proceeded to buy all of the strawberries that my bank account could afford. I wanted to be mean to Abigail, but I decided against it. And then it was off to the races of the egg festival, and I ended up defending my title.
I am the Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion, and I will remain the Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion.
I then went home and planted my strawberries, saving the rest for next spring. On day 126, my rhubarbs were ready to harvest, and so was the holy grail of potatoes. And I finished the crop order quest. I then bought some more rhubarb seeds from Sandy, gave Haley a birthday present, and I finished off the night splunking in the mines for some copper. On day 127, Evelyn asked for a leek for George, and Lewis gave me a mini shipping bin. Some of my maple syrup was ready to harvest, so I tossed 2 into my sturgeon pond. And I took the 3rd to the bear in the secret woods. I made more kegs for Keg Nation. And I spent the rest of the night farming for some copper. On day 128, Sebastian got up early and watered the crops for me. My starfruit was ready to harvest. And I loaded them all up into kegs. However, I was missing 3 kegs, so I deforested Cindersnap Forest. Again. My pigs were also fully grown, so I was able to gather truffles. I made some oil machines. I was so productive today that I forgot to go get more starfruit seeds. I got lucky and a crop fairy visited me. On day 129, Sebastian once again came through with his watering game. I harvested my rhubarbs. I headed over to Sandy's, and I purchased as many starfruit seeds as my bank account would allow. I then planted them. I was going to need a lot more kegs. On day 130, Sebastian gave me a star drop. I gave Pam a birthday gift, and I gave Evelyn her leek. I gave the truck driver at Jojamart a rabbit's foot, and got a lucky pendant. I then spent the rest of the day making sprinklers for my greenhouse. On day 131, after completing my farm chores, I headed off to Pierre's and bought some rice. I then made the 2 dishes that I would need for Gus's bundle. And I completed the chef's bundle, only needing the fodder bundle to complete the entire community center. I then spent the rest of the day chopping hardwood and smelting bars. On day 132, Sebastian couldn't sleep, so he gave me obsidian. He also told me to give Sam stone if he wanted me to hate him, for some reason. I spent a greater part of the day making kegs, and I placed more sprinklers in my greenhouse. I also screwed up said layout of said sprinklers. I later headed off into town and gave Shane a birthday present. I didn't want my favorite bus driver to get jealous, so I gave her a beer too. On day 133, Sebastian once again watered my crops for me. Early game marriage is amazing. Both Shane and Pam gave me recipes in the mail today. And Pierre requested sashimi because he's a psychopath, I don't know. My strawberries were ready to harvest, and I saved a fat stack of them for Project In-Laws. I then fished for Pierre's sashimi and got in Leah's way. I then gave Pierre his sashimi and he acted like a crackhead about it.
Don't tell anybody I'll kill you!
He did pay nicely for it though. On day 134, I headed down to the secret woods after taking care of my animals. I then took a look at my monster eradication goals because I wanted to complete the main goals in the main mines before heading off to Skull Caverns. I then spent the rest of the night defeating monsters in the mines. On day 135, Sebastian reminded me that tomorrow is the flower dance. The last of my potatoes were ready to harvest. I finally got enough hardwood for my house upgrade, but unfortunately it was a Tuesday, which meant Robin was now at the Mobs Club, so I'd have to wait until Thursday thanks to the festival to upgrade my house. More starfruit wine was ready to harvest, and I processed some extra hardwood in the wood chipper. I spent the rest of the night hunting monsters in the mines. And Tad gave birth in the middle of the night, so I named the new goat Rad. Day 136 started with me smelting some resources for the last of my sprinklers. I then donned my psycho mask and headed down to the flower dance, asking my husband to be my dance partner. And he said yes.
I'm the conductor of the poop train!
On day 137, Sebastian once again came through with his watering game. I love this man. More strawberries were ready to harvest. I also finished my temporary sprinkler setup, and I visited my mother-in-law for a house upgrade. And I made some more kegs for Keg Nation. On day 138, the keg empire grew by 2 kegs. I gave my least favorite crackhead store owner a birthday gift.
Happy birthday.
I then headed down to the community notice board and retried Willy's Bug Gut quest. And I spent the rest of the night murdering bugs. On day 139, I plucked an emerald out of my chest to give to Emily. I misclicked the trash can and Vincent looked at me like I told him the truth about his mother. I then headed into Emily and Haley's house and got the holy grail of heart events. After telling Haley to clean under the couch cushions, opening a jar, and whatever this was, I gave Emily a birthday gift. By the way, ladies, I'm married. But if I were to marry any lady in Stardew Valley, it would probably be Emily. I then went into the mines and savagely murdered bugs. I woke up on day 140 in a much, much bigger house. My sturgeons are top-notch trolls. I headed over to Robin's to do some house renovations, and I invested in the final house upgrade. It was then a race against time to finish that Bug Gut quest. I managed to finish at 12:30 at night, so I ran home, warped down to the beach, dropped off the bug meat, and warped back to my farm, just in time to head to bed. And I dreamed of summer. Day 141 was the first day of summer, and I got my fields ready for my new summer crops. My fruit trees had all grown up and were starting to produce fruit. Except for my apple sapling. That was going to need a few more days. I checked the community calendar to see whose birthdays are it during summer.
Alright, whose birthdays are it? Or, nope. Whose birthdays are it?
I then grabbed all the summer seeds I didn't buy from Pierre the year before. I then grabbed his catalog because my house looks like a mess.
Deliver me from LL Bean.
I then admired my work, and I started the early phases of redecorating my house, and was planning on making an indoor greenhouse in my basement. On day 142, I was once again singing praises to my husband. More starfruit was ready, and I fixed my sprinkler layout that had been driving me nuts this entire time. I then put Keg Nation to use. I had heard a whoosh in the middle of the night and found a meteor on my farm. I broke open some geodes at Clint's, donated any new findings to Gunther, and I collected my rewards, including this dwarvish translation guide, meaning I can talk to the dwarf. I picked up Linus's quest off the community board, and fished up trash on floor 100. Before going home, I broke down the wall and met the dwarf. This was going to make Skull Caverns a lot easier. On day 143, I started the morning off with some light house redecoration, and I started the beginning phases of Project In-Laws. I then bankrupted myself buying wood for preserve jars. I barely just had enough resources, but I made them. I then spent the rest of the night fishing for Linus's quest, and I almost caught a lava eel, but it got away. On day 144, I managed to walk in on the consequences of my actions of giving Shane too many beers. And he made Jazz cry on her birthday.
Electric chair.
So I made sure to give Jazz an extra special birthday gift, and continued on my quest of Project In-Laws. Maro then told me that she was going to build a robot, and, yikes.
I don't like where this is going.
I then bankrupted myself buying starfruit seeds and decided to spend the rest of the afternoon trying to catch a scorpion carp. I did hook one, but I managed to lose it. However, I did finish Linus's trash quest. On day 145, I recycled all of my trash and got my reward from Linus. I then fished up Caroline's necklace. But I couldn't find her anywhere, so I just saved it on the off chance that I were to run into her at some point. I then spent the rest of the night slaying monsters in the mines. On day 146, I dropped a frozen tear on my husband while he worked on his motorcycle. Linus also gave me the recipe for fiber seeds, and Demetrius requested I catch him a pufferfish. My jam was ready, and also my apple tree had now fully grown. And I finally completed the fodder bundle, and I started crying. This chokes me up every single time. And so I said goodbye to the Junimos, and I admired my work. And that was another objective complete. Upon leaving the community center with tears streaming down my face, I was greeted by this cutscene. Thanks, Linus. I spent the rest of the night hunting monsters, and managed to snag myself an ancient seed, so I did a little dance. On day 147, Mayor Lewis thanked me for doing his job. I then headed over to Gunther's and donated some stuff that I had laying around in my chests. But the most important thing was my ancient seed packet, so I ran home and planted it. I then got Sebastian's 14 heart event, and we caught our froggy son. I then continued Project In-Laws. I then spent the rest of the night fighting monsters in the mines. On day 148, my radishes and poppy seeds were ready to harvest. Willie again wanted to show me something out back. I then got a whole bunch of recipes in the mail from completing the community center. Sebastian and I then finalized our frog adoption. And then I headed off into town to see everyone celebrating the community center getting finished. Yep, you're welcome. And then Morris showed up, and yeah, I could have Pierre give this rousing speech in which he contributes the completion of the community center to the community itself, when it was all me instead, but no, I decided that I was going to have Pierre send Morris to the one place that had not been corrupted by capitalism.
Space! You are abandoned, and I am the goddamn hero!
I then helped Gus get his earnings from Pam, gave him a birthday gift, and then spent the rest of the night hunting monsters in the mines. On day 149, Gus stopped by and gave me a mini jukebox. I got another recipe in the mail, and Pierre celebrated Morris being dead by opening up his store 7 days a week. My summer spangles were ready to harvest, as was more starfruit wine, and I decided to try out the casks in my basement. While I was monster slaying in the mines, I got another prismatic shard. On day 150, my red cabbage was ready to harvest. I gave my sister-in-law a birthday gift, and I gave Robin and Demetrius a gift as well. I then bought some furniture for the house, and got the heart event from Robin in which he teaches you how to make a flute block and a drum block. I then headed home and did more house decoration. Day 151 was the day of the luau, and Sebastian also watered the crops for me. I knew this year I didn't want to be an idiot sandwich, so I plucked a starfruit out of my winemaking chest. Before heading to the luau, I picked up the prismatic jelly quest again. I dropped in my starfruit, and I waited for the approval of the governor. And he loved it. Like, really, dude. Calm down. Yay, I'm not an idiot sandwich! On day 152, Marnie requested a cave carrot, and I opened up more recipes from the mail due to having a smashing luau dish. Kent sent me a bomb though, so I don't know what that's about. My hops was ready to harvest, and I spent the rest of the day looking for the prismatic jelly. And I finished the night passing out on my living room floor and unlocking the secret bundle. Day 153 was a rain day, so I made the last of my preserve jars for my greenhouse, and I spent the rest of the day looking for the prismatic slime. And I passed out on my farm. On day 154, it was like Sebastian had ESPN or something and knew I was befriending his parents because he told me not to give Robin stone. Harvey then billed me for passing out on my own property. More radishes were ready to harvest. I then headed off to the mines for the final day of the prismatic jelly quest. And Yoba blessed me because just when I was thinking about giving up, I found the prismatic slime. I then raced down to the wizard tower and I gave it to him, and then he kicked me out to study the gay rights.
Gonna get gay rights taken away from all of us.
On day 155, Mayor Lewis sent me 500 gold for being nice to people. I also got the recipe from Monster Musk, and Kent asked for a starfruit. I checked the community calendar and saw that I missed Alex's birthday. I swung by Kent's to give him his starfruit and ended up settling a marital dispute between Kent and Jody over popcorn. I then gave Kent his starfruit, and Caroline her lost necklace, and I begrudgingly took Pierre's quest. I headed down to the beach to do some fishing and got this cutscene. Yikes. I then spent the rest of the night fishing for the crimson fish. And Dean gave birth in the middle of the night, so I named the new pig Dawn. On day 156, Caroline gave me the recipe for parsnip soup, and Gus managed to mail me a plate of food. My wine empire was running smoothly. I also managed to catch the crimson fish, so I headed down to the sewers to catch the mutant carp. But it was being a butt, so I'll have to try again tomorrow. And I placed the crimson fish in with the legend. On day 157, more starfruit was ready to harvest. So I headed down to the desert and I bought more seeds from Sandy. I gave Sam a birthday gift. I then spent the rest of the afternoon trying to catch a mutant carp, and this thing was a total butt, but I managed to catch it. And after almost eating it, I put it in the tank with the rest of its friends. On day 158, more summer spangles were ready to harvest. I got Maru's 2 heart event, and after convincing her to be honest with Harvey about the beaker, he then heavily implied that I had a crush on Maru. Harvey, I'm married. I then did the rounds for Project In-Laws. I then visited Willie and found out that he was not trying to kill me and use my appendages as beach furniture. He just wanted me to repair his old boat for him. I then spent the rest of the day cleaning out the quarry. And the witch cursed my coop. Thanks, but I already have a satanic chicken. In fact, I have 2. On day 159, more red cabbage is ready to harvest. I then picked up my demonic chicken egg up off the floor and threw it into the incubator, because what is one more satanic chicken? I headed up to the mountain to get Demetrius a birthday gift and ended up triggering another heart event for Maru. Demetrius, if I were you, I would take a trip down to your basement and find out that your stepson no longer lives there because guess what? I married him. I ended up not saying anything because it's Demetrius' birthday and I didn't want to embarrass him. So after that awkward encounter, I gave him a birthday gift. And Maru and Robin got gifts too because I have to be fair. I ended up getting down to the docks too late to catch pufferfish, so I spent the rest of the day in the mines. On day 160, Demetrius sent me the recipe for Autumn's bounty. I spent the morning making kegs, and my radishes were ready to harvest. On the way down to the beach, I picked up more radish seeds for Pierre's quest. I tried fishing for a pufferfish again, but ended up empty-handed. So I went home and expanded Keg Nation. On day 161, Sebastian must have known that I was rushing to get down to the beach because he watered the crops for me. He then gave me a whole spiel about buying a slime hutch, and not yet, honey. Not yet. Mayor Lewis requested personal truffle oil. I then ran down to the beach, and after buying a trap bobber, I finally caught it. I then ran into Mayor Pervert on the dock, so I decided to give him his personal truffle oil. I then delivered the pufferfish to my stepfather-in-law. I paid Krobus a visit for my star drop, and I spent the rest of the night making kegs. On day 162, more poppies were ready to harvest. On the way down to the beach, I saw the quest board lit up, so I took Robin's resource rush. I spent a few hours trying to catch an octopus, but it didn't bite. I checked the community calendar and saw that it was the dwarf's birthday. I then bought some more radishes because I was paranoid about not finishing Pierre's quest. I then headed up to the mountain where Sebastian was visiting his mom and then proceeded to finish Robin's resource quest. Yep, you can do this. And it counts. I then gave a few gifts to the in-laws. I then gave a birthday gift to the dwarf. I spent the rest of the night setting up kegs, harvesting starfruit wine, and loading up more wine into kegs. On day 163, I spent the morning making more kegs. I then headed down to the docks for another shot at the octopus, but didn't catch it. So I spent the rest of the night slaying monsters and hunting down iron ore. On day 164, Sebastian gave me some coffee, so I used it and raced down to the docks to try to get another octopus. But that thing is a complete B-word. I headed up to Robin's and invested in a big shed, and did another round of gift giving. Maru then started flirting with me. Help.
Oh my god! Okay, it's happening! Everybody stay calm! What's the procedure, everyone?
What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
I gave Willie a birthday gift too, and I spent the rest of the night on the iron floors of the mines. On day 165, my third void egg hatched and I named it Vecna. I spent another disappointing morning down at the docks. I spent the rest of the night down in the mines, getting the Monster Hunter award for slaying bats. I forgot about my fruit tree harvest, but I managed to get everything into preserve jars before passing out on my farm. On day 166, Marlon wrote me to tell me that he found me passed out on my farm, and luckily he didn't charge me. Thanks, dude! And Gus made me breakfast. I dropped off my produce at Pierre's. Unfortunately, I got down to the docks a little too late, so I decided that I was going to spend the rest of the day in the lower half of the mines. On day 167, Sebastian asked me out on a date to the Moonlight Jellies tomorrow night. On the way down to the docks, I caught Pierre reselling my produce for astronomical prices, and for that, I only have one thing to say to him.
Ban you! Get out of the store!
I will not get out of my store!
Get out! You are banned!
You're banned!
You're banned!
And after a morning down at the docks, I ended up empty-handed. Again. So I decided to head down to level 100 of the mines, and after catching a landfill full of trash, I finally hooked a lava eel. And after putting up a pretty good fight, I caught one. On day 168, the last of my radishes were ready to harvest. Pierre then sent me a note, in which he explained that he saw the error of his ways of selling my crops for astronomical prices, and he then enclosed another mini shipping bin, which I placed in my greenhouse. I spent the better part of the morning doing some yard work, and I visited Clint and Gunther. I also commissioned Robin to build me another fish pond, and I gave out another round of gifts, and I headed down to the docks and watched the Moonlight Jellies with Sebastian. I just want to take this time to thank everybody for the amazing support on the first 100 Days of Stardew Valley, and I hope you're enjoying this 200 Days of Stardew Valley, and I appreciate every single one of you watching. And I headed to bed and dreamed of fall. But not before Rad decided that they needed to give birth to a baby goat, which I named Vlad. Day 169 marked the beginning of fall, so I headed down to Pierre's and I bought some seeds that I hadn't grown the year before. I spent the entire day pretty much planting and watering, and I cleaned up some farm debris that had spawned overnight. More wine was ready, so I spent the rest of the night reformatting my kegs. On day 170, my new fish pond was ready, so I tossed a blobby boy inside. Another batch of starfruit was ready, and I took Gus's quest off the board. I gave Penny a birthday present. I then gave Penny a lesson on asking people if they want help before assuming that they need help, which is a big pet peeve of mine. I then went home and lined my greenhouse with more starfruit. On day 171, Sebastian once again proved to me that he is the best husband ever. I then decided today would be a good day to try to catch the angler, and I did on my first try. I then headed up to the train station, and the wizard decided that I was Dr. Phil or something because he started telling me about his ex-wife. Could have that mistake been Caroline?
You are the father!
I then headed down to the sewer to see Krobus and the dwarf going head-to-head.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
After settling their feud, Krobus then decided to unlock the mutant bug layer so I could go get the Dark Talisman, and I fished up a Slimejack. I got the Dark Talisman and unlocked the Witch's area, but I got stopped by the henchmen, so I decided to fish instead, catching a Void Salmon. I then stargazed with Maru, and she tried to hit on me, but thought better of it. On day 172, I decided to start gathering some resources for a Skull Cavern run. I then gave out more gifts to my in-laws, and I managed to get full hearts with Demetrius. On day 173, my wheat was ready to harvest. I then threw some into my keg and harvested my bok choy. I then gave Elliot, a birthday present. He then complained to me about sitting, and now I definitely see why Ren Queen absolutely hates this dude. I spent some time fishing in the Witch's Swamp for some void mayonnaise because there was absolutely no way that I was giving the henchman my homemade satanic chicken mayo. It's a secret recipe. I then grabbed the magic ink, warped back to the wizard's tower, and he proceeded to treat me like Dr. Phil. Again. Dude, she's just not that into you anymore. Maybe you shouldn't have cheated on her with Caroline. How about that? Anyway, he gave me permission to use his fancy little book. On day 174, Gus requested a lobster. I checked my fortune and it was a yellow luck day, so I put away my crab pots and I bought myself a bus ticket. It was time.
Let's get started, Beach.
And after the initial freak out of like, oh my god, I'm in the Skull Caverns, I started to settle into a rhythm of just blowing everything up and eating a crap ton of salads. I got down to floor 28 before crying uncle and going home, but I did a whole lot better than I thought I would because I didn't die like a beach.
Hell yeah!
On day 175, I watched the Queen of Sauce for the first time in a year and a half? My perfection is so effed. But it was a yellow luck day! Yay! And Sebastian watered for me. Today is coming up daisies. Mr. Q totally enabled me to go even further down in the mines. I harvested my first ancient fruit, appeased my butt sturgeons, and found out that my blobby boys want easy things. But Mr. Cheese call to the mines was just too strong, so I bought a bus ticket and headed down into the mines. I blew things up and ate salads until I passed out on floor 47, and I got level 10 foraging, in which I picked Botanist. On day 176, Mr. Chi came through with that money game, and Linus was a real one. I spent the better part of the morning making more farm equipment, and I bought some artifact troves and some beets. I cracked open some geodes, and did a donation run at Gunther's. I retook Robin's quest again, and donated my eggs to Gus. And I put something useful in my crystallarium for once. And I finished the night off with it being wine o'clock. On day 177, Gus managed to squeeze an entire fridge into the mail, and Mayor Lewis informed me that the Stardew Valley Fair is coming up. My bok choy and artichokes were ready to harvest, and I gave gifts to my last two stubborn in-laws. Gus presented his giant omelet, and I was surprised that everyone loved it because I put 15 void eggs in that thing. I then bought a galaxy hammer, and decided to spend the rest of the night testing out the combo in the mines. Day 178 was a yellow luck day, and I repented for my Queen of Sauce sins by watching her rerun. I then bought a bus ticket and headed down into the mines. It was going pretty well until floor 22, when disaster struck, an infested floor. The good news was I got my final note inviting Mr. Chi down to level 100, but the bad news was I got too cocky and I died. The only real thing of value that I lost was my Mega Bombs, so I just used Marlin's recovery service up in the mountains. Day 179 was a purple luck day. Sebastian even watered the crops for me so I could get to Skull Caverns even quicker. I stopped by Jodie's house to give her a birthday gift and ended up in Sam's 2 Heart event. I know Drake Bell is unsavory right now, but I totally read Sam's voice as totally Kyle.
About my cousin yelling things at me? In New Jersey? And she was all, "You don't have a cousin in New Jersey."
I then gave Jodie a birthday gift, and she proceeded to trash her son for being lazy. I then headed down to the mines and made a valiant effort. However, I got stuck on a few infested floors, so I only made it down to floor 68. On day 180, Jody gave me the recipe for fried calamari so I could never cook it for Pierre. And Linus was, once again, a real one. I then headed up to the mountains and settled a marital dispute between my in-laws because Demetrius' brain is just too big, I guess. I then gave out gifts, and I got Maru's 8-heart event in which she does this to me.
Oh! Shoot! Oh! Oh! Oh!
Maru then said that I ruined the moment with my dying, and just for that, I'm selling all of my strawberries and never talking to her again. I wasn't going to talk to her ever again regardless, but that just sealed the deal. On day 181, true to my word, I sold all of my strawberries. My fairy rose, bok choy, and sunflowers were all ready to harvest. I gave Abigail a birthday gift, and she complimented me on completing the community center all by myself. Wow, Abigail's a real one. I then appeased the blobby boys. Day 182 was a purple luck day. I grabbed my jade out of the chest to make staircases. After finishing my farm chores, I headed up to the dwarf to grab some more supplies. I knew it wasn't honorable, but I made staircases to get me past the infested floors. And it was off to the races in the mines. I even got a prehistoric floor, but that was insane.
The fire's shooting at us!
If I kept at it at the rate that I was going, I knew I wasn't going to make it, so I just started staircasing down the rest of the way. So after staircasing the way down, I made it to floor 100 finally, and Mr. Q made sure to read me to filth about that one, but I didn't care, and I clenched that milk in my hands and I drank it proudly because now next time I wanted to go to Skull Caverns, I didn't have to rush, and I was excited. And that was another objective complete. On day 183, Jody invited me to dinner at her house. The only problem was, I'd have to bring the dinner. Like, what? Marlon wrote me to tell me that he found me dead in the mines, and Mayor Lewis wrote me to inform me that the Stardew Valley Fair is tomorrow. BYOD would have to wait because it was a Yellow Luck Day, which meant I was going to spend my day down in Skull Caverns. And I did. On day 184, Mr. Perfect Husband decided that he was going to water the crops again. I then headed off to the Stardew Valley Fair and got my Grange display ready. I put the most important thing front row and center. I still was a little nervous while Lewis graded everyone's display. But I defended my title. Eat that, Pierre.
The cream of the crop! Nobody does it better!
I then used my prize earnings to buy a rare crow and some hay. On day 185, more bok choy, artichokes, and grapes were ready. I filled up more kegs with starfruit, and I made some more preserve jars for my future aged roe business. I gave my mother-in-law a gift, and I commissioned her to make me another fish pond. #FishPondNation. And I finally got around to planting those crab pots. Day 186 was a Yellow Luck Day. I headed down to Marnie's ranch and I gave her a birthday gift. I was also at high enough hearts with her to gain Mayor Lewis's shorts, so I paraded them around town trying to find him. I then got Abigail's 2-heart scene in which she complains about not being able to beat Prairie King, and neither can I, so I hit skip. I then gave Mayor Lewis his panties back in the room that I paid for with my own money while he was making solid gold statues of himself. Don't think I don't know about that, Lewis. I then spent the rest of the day in Skull Caverns where I got a purple slime egg. Now I definitely have to make a slime hutch. On day 187, it was once again a Yellow Luck Day. Mayor Lewis then proceeded to bribe me to stay quiet with some eggplant parm. And since JojaMart is closed, I guess Pam doesn't know where to buy batteries. I then gave Pam a battery so she could watch TV again and headed up to the dwarf to grab some supplies. I then spent the rest of the day in the mines.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for! That's what it's all about!
On day 188, I tossed a super cucumber into my new pond. I then put out some preserve jars for some more roe. I headed out to the desert trader for some artifact troves, and I broke open what I could at Clint's, but I didn't get anything new. So I spent the rest of the night doing my seasonal cleanup of the quarry. On day 189, Sebastian gifted me some coffee, which I accidentally regifted to him. It was a purple luck day, so I decided that I was going to spend the entire day in the mines. Day 190 was once again another purple luck day. I headed up to the mountains to have Robin make me a slime hutch. It was then that I realized that I had forgotten her birthday, but I was full hearts with her. And that was my last objective complete, and so I celebrated by blowing things up in the mines. Until I died. Whoops. But I didn't lose much though, so I decided to pass out on the floor of my child's future bedroom. On day 191, Gus once again gave me food in the mail. And these spirits just love me, man! And so I once again spent the day down in the mines. On day 192, Marlon stopped by to let me know that Robin had finished my slime hutch and gave me a green slime egg. So I spent the morning setting up my slime hutch. I then threw both of my slime eggs into the incubator and got ready to have some slimes. It was also wine o'clock. I then gave George a birthday gift in which he told me that he is Alex's grandpa. Couldn't have figured that one out on my own. On day 193, George sent me the recipe for fried eel and told me not to burn it. I then headed up to Robin's and finally bought the furniture catalog. And I commissioned her to make me a second shed for my preserve jars. I bought some artifact troves from the desert trader, and I headed over to Clint's and broke them open, donating my new items to Gunther. I then spent the rest of the night doing some light house redecoration. On day 194, Sebastian was excited for the Spirits Eve festival tomorrow. I then gave my blobby boys some coffee that they requested. Some slime eggs were ready. I saved the blue one for later incubation. It was a purple luck day, so I headed down into the mines. I didn't lose anything though, so yay. I headed off to Krobus's and bought an Iridian sprinkler and a wicket statue. The wizard's ex-wife was going to stay out of my slime hutch. On day 195, Linus gave me some fried calamari that I will definitely be eating in front of Pierre. My slimes had hatched. I then threw in my blue slime egg because I wanted all different kinds of slimes. And then this happened, but I was able to get them corralled back inside, so yay. I headed down to Marnie's to give her that cave carrot finally, and she escaped. And I thought that I could just give it to her, but I guess not. I made kegs for the rest of the day, and then I headed off to the Spirits Eve Festival, where I got the golden pumpkin. Day 196 was a yellow luck day. I then got one of my favorite Sebastian dialogues. And he then reminded me that I was pregnant. I know, sweetie. I know. I then walked in on my slimes, getting acquainted with each other. And I moved my unused preserve jars to my shed, and spent the rest of the night in the mines, where I passed out and dreamed of winter. On day 197, winter had once again looped back around. The wizard then gave me something that I could give to my not-ex-wife. I bought some more artifact troves and headed off to Clint's before donating my lone donation to Gunther. I headed up to Robin's and moved my fish ponds around so I could have her build another one for me. I then spent the rest of the night trying to catch a glacier fish, and oh my god, this thing is a total nightmare. On day 198, my blue slime egg had hatched, and more commingling was happening. I then once again tried to catch the glacier fish. And after several attempts of fighting and losing at catching this goddamn fish, I caught it. And then I freaked out. On day 199, I was for real wishing I had a friend in IRL that was like Gus. Yet another fish pond was ready, so I threw in my lava eel. I checked out the missing bundle, and wow, I almost have everything for it. I then cracked some more geodes and donated the contents to Gunther. And my reward looks like something straight out of Euphoria, if you catch my drift.
Stop it. Get some help.
I then gave Linus a birthday gift. And my last batch of wine was ready. On day 200, I finally redecorated my kitchen. Ugh, I'm so lazy. I headed up to my mother-in-law's and invested in another fish pond. I'm obsessed, I'm sorry. I then fully intended to move some ponds around so it looked less crowded, but you can't do that once you've given Robin a job. Great. Maybe I'll do that in 300 days. I've been trying to regularly check the beach to see if there's anything that spawned that my fish ponds might need, but I've been coming up empty-handed, and today I came up empty-handed as well. So looking for some kind of win on my last day, I decided that I was going to go down into the mines and try to find an ice pip. And after catching what felt like a million ghost fish, I finally caught one. So feeling somewhat accomplished, I went to bed for the night. And that was the end of my 200 days in Stardew Valley. If you liked this video, feel free to hit that like button and that subscribe button. I appreciate every single one of you. My name is Gary, and I am signing off. Bye!